Hey, Bill, thanks for coming to be part of this interview. We're going to use this interview as one of the main things that we focus on at our parish weekend in September. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Okay. Now, my understanding is that you are the oldest member of Emmanuel. How old are you, Bill?
Last birthday, 94. And I might mention that I have been an Episcopalian all my life.
Yeah.
And 52 years of those 94 have been members of Emmanuel.
52 years.
52 years.
Okay. You can do the math for me. What year did you come in?
Into this church.
Into Emmanuel?
Into Emmanuel, October 1958.
1958. And Emmanuel didn't look like this in 1958. What did we look like then?
Where we're sitting right now is a lawn area, a few trees, and is the spot where the church, the first shovelful of dirt was dug out. Not too many years after that, 1958.
Right, and when you first came here, though, this building was not here, but you worshipped in the parish hall?
We worshipped in the parish hall, had dinners in the parish hall, meetings of all kinds. Vestry meetings were held not in the parish hall, but in a group of offices the other side of the courtyard.
Okay.
And we could look out from that meeting to the Audubon Park baseball field.
Right.
Absolutely wide open.
Right. So this was all wide open.
It was.
Now, the church started even before the parish hall. My understanding is it started in a storefront on Mills.
That's correct. I was not in Orlando at that time.
Okay.
That's what I understand, yes.
And that was 1954.
Perhaps even 53 and 54,
Okay.
yeah.
And then they moved from that storefront to a place on Corinne.
On Corinne Drive, I understand it was the rear of a hardware store.
A hardware store.
And that was the last stop, I believe, on the way to building the parish hall.
And then they built the parish hall. Okay, then this building was completed in 1964, is my understanding. But how did we get this piece of land in the first place? Do you know about that?
No, since I was not in Orlando at that time,
Okay.
I did not know that.
Okay.
I had been to the cathedral a few years earlier
Right.
when Dean Johnson baptized my son,
Right.
1946. The same Dean Johnson whose idea it was to build Emmanuel Church.
Okay, so the history is this church was birthed out of the cathedral
Yes.
by Dean Johnson.
Yes, that's correct.
And then the story that I always hear is that this was going to be a low church
That is
complement to the high church cathedral.
That is what I understood too.
You understood that too. All right. Well, then what I'd like to do now is talk a little bit about the church at the time when it was being built. And we have this photograph here, which hangs out in the sitting area of the office. And this is the vestry at the time that the church was built. And I would like it if you could just to go through and just make a comment on each of the gentlemen that are in that photo. Notice they're all gentlemen.
Yes, they are.
Okay, so why don't we just go from left to right. Who's this first gentleman here?
That is
Is that the first row or the second
row? That's the first
row?
one, and then that is Ford
Is that
Harrison.
Ford Harrison.
I'm not getting him mixed up with the movie. This is Ford.
Okay.
Harrison. And in the front row, that is Alan Hurley.
Alan Hurley.
And next to him is Bert Heap.
Bert Heap.
My brother-in-law.
Your brother-in-law.
My sister Ruth's husband.
Okay.
In the front row, John Reed.
And which one is John Reed?
Next to Francis Cooper.
This one here.
That's John Reed.
Okay.
And next to Francis Cooper.
And this is Francis Cooper.
Yes. Francis Cooper came to Emmanuel Church in 1960 from Virginia when the church was in the parish hall.
Right.
And it was his idea to build a church to accommodate the number of people that we were getting in.
Uh-huh.
Next to Francis Cooper's side there is Ron Warswick.
Ron Warswick.
And
who's this gentleman here?
I am in the front on the end, and just behind me is Tom Hale.
Tom Hale, okay.
Moving back to behind Francis Cooper and Ron Warswick was Bob Shefferston.
Uh-huh.
Also in the rear, a tall gentleman is Sandy Showalter. And the last one in the back, Edgerton Vandenberg.
Okay, now Edgerton is still with us.
He is.
And
we do see him at church
yeah,
frequently.
Yeah. And can you tell me then how old you were in that photo?
About 42.
About 42. Young fellow.
Yeah.
All right.
It looks like I don't have a tie on, but I did have a tie.
You did have a tie. Okay.
My color coordination wasn't right that day.
Okay, and I can even tell from here, this is the ball field in the background. There's a little bit of the backstop right there.
That's exactly right.
Okay, now, and this was the groundbreaking.
It was. That shovel was put into the ground.
And it says 1964, May 24th, 1964, the groundbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand there's a story about Sandy Showalter. Can you tell me about how he lost his life?
No, I don't know the details of it. He died on a trip to Chicago.
On a trip to Chicago.
I do not know the details of that.
Well, I'll bet when we actually show this in the parish weekend, people will tell us the story. My understanding is that he was attempting to save someone who was drowning,
Did not hear
and that he himself drowned in the process. I hope I have that right, and hopefully someone will correct me if we need to be corrected.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the church was started May 24th, 1964.
That's right.
Can you tell me anything else about the early days of the church?
Small stores on Corinne Drive were all very much interested in it.
Uh-huh.
And when the church, when the first service took place on Easter Day,
Easter, first service. Must have been 65.
65.
Yeah.
Store owners, businesses were invited to the church.
Uh-huh.
Some of those businesses, believe it or not, are still here.
Yeah.
Jean's Auto.
Jean's. I baptized Jean's
That's
grandchild
correct.
here
That's
a few
correct.
years ago.
That's correct. They were all very much interested, and as all of us were, as we came in that front door and saw that beautiful church.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Everyone who comes into this building is impressed and surprised at the beauty of this place.
Not only the interior, but I drove by here just yesterday with a friend from out of town, showing her my church.
Uh-huh.
She, what a beautiful church. And I
That's
said
great.
to her that she should see it when those stained glass windows are lit up.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, actually, at another point in the weekend, we're going to be talking about the stained glass windows and all the memorials that are here in the church.
That's a good point too, because when the church was built, I don't know whether this is a good time to bring it up.
Go ahead.
The figure was $200,000
Uh-huh.
to build this church. The parishioners were asked to all contribute as memorials, certain things in the church.
Right.
The altar hangings and certain windows.
Right.
And one member of my family, one of my stepsisters and her husband, contributed the crucifix, the cross that we carry down every Sunday.
Oh, boy.
And on the back of that cross, my father and my stepmother are mentioned.
Uh-huh.
And my connection with the stepfamily is my mother died when I was 9 years old, and after about a year, my father, a railroader, found out he had to do something with me, I suppose, and he found a good Christian Episcopal family, and I had a new mother and 3 stepsisters.
And one of those stepsisters was Ruth Heath.
Sisters, Ruth, whose husband was on the vestry.
And her husband is Bert.
And who Ruth lived to 104.
104.
And on visits that I made to her a few weeks before her death, and even at other times, she would follow in the prayers as she's given the communion.
Yes.
And she would remember them.
Yes.
She could not see. She had been blind for quite a while.
Right.
That was Ruth Heath.
Yes. All right. Now, getting back to the church then, there was one other important thing I remember you telling me about, and that was burning the mortgage. Can you tell us about what that was?
Yes, that was another 10 years after the 1965 First Sunday. 10 years later, the mortgage was burned, and we had a special service in 1975.
1975, we burned the mortgage. What a great thing to not have that hanging over us.
That, I thought, was a testimonial to the good people.
Yes.
In Emmanuel through those years.
Yes.
Really was.
Yes.
10 years.
That was a pretty good short payoff period, too.
It really was. Really was.
I'm going to just quickly go through the names of the rectors of this parish, and if you feel like commenting on any of them that you might have known particularly, I'm going to invite you to make a comment. The first rector that I know of, his name was Nevitt, 1958 to 1960. Did you know him?
Yes, he was the one that was here when my family came here first.
Okay.
And then Francis Cooper.
Then Francis Cooper
came in 1960.
I understand he was Mr. Cooper, not Father Cooper.
He wanted to be, well, I'll tell the story this way.
Okay.
At a meeting, soon after he arrived, in the parish hall, he pointed out different people that he had just met, and that he wanted them to play a part in these early years of his. And he said, I want you, Bill Scoltock, I want you to be my key man, K-E-Y. I had no idea what that meant. Didn't know whether I was going to be given some keys or what. Turns out the key man was something he had brought down from Virginia, and he wanted me to attend meetings with him at other churches, various kinds of meetings. And that leads me to your question about Mr. Cooper. Because he said, Bill, when you introduce me, I want you to introduce me as Reverend Cooper, Francis Cooper, or Mr. Cooper.
Okay. And that was our low church tradition. It was Mr. and not Father.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
All right. Now, he was followed then by O'Kelly Whitaker, who went on to be the Bishop of Central New York.
He went on from here to be Dean of the Cathedral.
Dean of the Cathedral, and then Bishop.
Bishop in upstate New York.
Right. Right. And then he was followed by Father Ihlefeld.
Yes.
And then by Frank Gray.
Right.
Who also went on to be a bishop.
He did, Northern Indiana.
Northern Indiana. And then followed by Bob Stevens.
That's correct.
And Reed McCormick.
Correct.
And then the current rector, I forget his name, but anyway, we'll get to him some other time. Well, Bill, is there anything else you'd like to just say as a parting comment?
I want to pick it up where you were mentioning the rectors.
Okay.
And to tell you how appreciative and thankful we are that you came here at a time when Emmanuel Church was having difficulties. And all of us, thank you for bringing us out of that.
Well, I thank you very much as well.
I really do.
Thank you very much.
It was a tough time. I was not on the vestry at that time, but it was. And a number of people would say the same thing.
Well, thank you, and thank you for saying that, and I think that is well in the past, and we're now looking to the future.
We certainly are, yes.
All right.
I am so pleased myself, excuse me, at my age to see the young people
Yes,
with their children
yes.
come marching up to the altar for the communion. And also to see a number of them with grandchildren,
Yes,
like myself.
yes.
I brought my grandchildren into the church many times. 5 granddaughters,
Uh-huh.
8 great-grandchildren, all girls except 2. Most of them have been here.
Great, great.
A couple have been married here.
All right. Well, Bill, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
People are going to really enjoy seeing this when come around September. So thank you very much.
Good.
All right. Okay, so a couple of other questions, actually. You were going to tell me about some of the things you've done here at the church, some of the ministries you've had, and you also mentioned the softball game. So why don't you tell me about those? What are some of the things you've done here at Emmanuel?
The
Your vestry.
vestry, usher, of course.
Usher.
We had a men's club for many years.
Uh-huh.
Each of us took turns at being president of that.
Men's club, okay.
And we had some very interesting speakers,
Uh-huh.
members of the church. Judge George Young,
Uh-huh.
for one, I think of frequently. One of my jobs in the 70s was to run the pancake supper
The pancake
in
supper.
connection with the men's club.
Uh-huh.
The men ran it.
Right?
And my wife said to me, "What in the world are you doing? You don't know how to cook." And I said, well, I can find the ones that can cook the pancakes,
Right.
and then can cook, brew the coffee, and what else did we have? The sausages.
Uh-huh.
John Smoot
Yeah.
was the one that handled the sausages. He came early on a Shrove Tuesday afternoon.
Right. You know who the pancake guy is now? It's the guy behind the camera here.
It is.
Mr. Pete Barr.
Oh, I'll be darned.
What about this softball game you were going to tell
Yes,
me
I
about?
wanted to tell you, in Orlando back in the 60s and 70s, there were some good church leagues
Ah.
throughout throughout Orlando.
Uh-huh.
All Saints, St. John the Baptist on the west side,
Uh-huh.
St. Mary's in Pine Castle, our own Emmanuel. I probably missed a few others, but that was when it was all Episcopal churches.
Uh-huh.
Then we mixed in with others and in a league, and